Hey, R2, do you want to enter a competition? Yeah? Cool. How do you think we're going to do? You do? Awesome. What's that? Hello and welcome to the Prop Cave. So, elephant in the room. As you can see, I've got a pretty big project underway. This little dude is going to take me a good couple of years to finish. Anybody who's part of the Astromech community know that building an R2-D2 is a good couple of year project. Some people complete it a lot quicker, but generally you invest a lot of time into building these little guys. And I must say it's loads of fun, and anybody who is interested in building your own R2-D2 or whatever Astromech you might be interested in building, I highly recommend getting into it. It's so much fun, it's really rewarding, there's a lot of work, but there's lots of help out there to do it. If you want to go to astromech.net, that's the oldest and the most amazing community of Astromech builders, R2 builders, and you'll find amazing help out there. Now this guy I'm 3D printing, and it's all thanks to Michael Badley of Michael Badley's Printed Droid. Go to printeddroid.com. Michael also has a Facebook page, Michael Badley's Printed Droid, and if you're interested in building your own R2 unit and also have 3D printer, this is a great way to go about it. Obviously you can build a fully aluminium version with an aluminium dome, and all of that is out there. This is possibly, if you're on a budget, building a 3D printed version is a more budget conscious way of doing it, and it's a really great fun project and I highly recommend it. But as I've said, this is going to be a good 2-year, maybe more project for me. So there's a lot of time invested, but I really wanted to make use of what I've got now. Obviously there's a lot of work to do, but the dome is pretty much finished. R2's dome is pretty much there. I've got all the elements fitted, and in the UK we have, in England in the summer we have village fairs, village fetes, village shows. Wherever you are in the world, I'm sure you have something similar, but in England it's a very traditional village gathering in the summer. It's very often associated with harvest, but central to the village show, the village fete, is the competitions tent. And the competitions tent is where people bring their homegrown produce, handicrafts, and we all compete to see who wins all the different categories. So you can have the longest carrot, the longest runner bean, the biggest tomato, and there's flower arranging competitions, and also there's craft categories. So within the craft category there is lots of different areas you can compete, but there's also the anything else category. So I'm gonna enter R2 into the anything else category. Now obviously he's not ready, so how can I enter R2 into the local fair and see if we can win a competition? Well, I was thinking about how I can do that, and obviously he's not ready, but his dome is ready. And so I thought, where do you see R2's dome without the rest of his body? And obviously that's when he sat in a starfighter, whether it's the X-Wing or the Naboo Starfighter from the Phantom Menace. And I thought, wouldn't it be really cool if I could recreate the droid port that R2 sits in and somehow use that to display the dome. So I've created the Naboo Starfighter bit, which is the display bit that the R2 dome is going to sit into. And I'm going to show you how I've done that in a minute. So I've created that. And so obviously I want to put the dome in here and I want it to turn. Okay, so how I'm going to do that is to use part of Michael Baddeley's design for the R2 unit. So the R2 unit is all 3D printed. So you have the body, and then on the top of the body, the way Michael's designed it is it uses a Lazy Susan, a really standard Lazy Susan that you'd have on a tabletop. And that has within it, you've got a gear system which you 3D print and you put inside the Lazy Susan system. And then the part of the Lazy Susan is attached to the display, or the R2 unit, the body. And then the inner ring, which has the gears, is then powered by a motor with a smaller gear, which turns the Lazy Susan. And then on that, the dome sits. And so as that turns, the dome turns. So that's going to get put in here, and then the R2 dome is going to get put on top. I'm going to show you how we do all of that. And then that's going to be powered by a motor inside. All the lighting is going to fit in the dome, and I'm going to have a switch to turn it off and on. And then so that's going to be what I'm going to enter into the competition. It's going to be, so the top of the Naboo Starfighter that R2 sits into, his dome's going to go on top. Obviously he's not going to turn as you would expect, and there's going to be no sound. He's simply going to sit in here and slowly turn around with all the lights flashing. And that's what I'm going to do. Okay, let me show you how I did the display bit. So first I got myself some plywood, a square piece of plywood. This is 9mm thick plywood, and I drew a line from each opposing corner to get the centre of the board, so I could, when I drew a circle, I knew I got plenty of space all around. I measured the dimension of R2's dome using the lower ring, and I knew I wanted a 4mm gap all the way around the dome for the hole that R2 was going to sit into. So I worked out the diameter of that, which was obviously the diameter of the dome plus 8mm. So that gave me the diameter I needed, and then I transferred that to a scrap piece of wood to use as my compass to draw around. So I halved that figure to give me 23.55 centimetres. Transferred those dimensions to the piece of wood, and that then allowed me to draw the circle for the hole that R2's dome would then fit into. So I drew that circle, and then I knew I wanted the thickness of the port to be 5 centimetres, so I then drew another circle around that, which gave me the top of the display. So I then went to the bandsaw and I cut that out as best I could. My bandsaw cutting is not the best cutting, so I went all the way around the outside and then cut the inside. So once I had that, I then took that piece of wood and took it off the bandsaw, slid it through. I'd had a slit at the top, so I was going to fill that, so that wasn't a problem. I then transferred that to another piece of wood, drew around it for my bottom of the display cabinet, and went and obviously cut that out. So now I've got my two pieces. I decided how deep I wanted it to be, which was 14 centimetres. I cut blocks of wood appropriately, and then I could, that gives me the base for the display. So I drilled the holes, countersunk them, glued all the wood up, and then I could stick the whole thing together and screwed the top to the blocks, and then did the same on the base. So that was pretty straightforward. So attached the bottom, again all straightforward, making sure I lined everything up nice and neat, screwed it together, and that gave me the main frame for the display. And then I wrapped that in hardboard, 3mm hardboard, which you can see, and then obviously that lots of holes and not perfect, so I then used some body filler and I went around the whole thing and covered the holes, and made sure it was, once I'd sanded it, it'd be nice and smooth. So once I'd done that, I got a knife, and as the filler was going off, I used the knife to take off any bits, and clearly the dome sits in it really nicely. Then moving on to sanding, I went outside, so obviously this is a messy process, and gave it everything a really good sanding. So I wanted it to be, obviously the Starfighter's metal, so I wanted it to be as smooth as I possibly could. Sanded everything down, and then once I'd done that, I used spray putty to make it, to try and fill in any other little gaps that I'd missed and give it a nice smooth coating. So this is me spraying the spray putty. Once I gave that a couple of coats, sanding in between, so that was all pretty straightforward. Didn't take too long. It was a nice warm day, so it all dried quite quickly. Sanded everything down, did it again, a couple of coats, and then put the primer over, and then the final coat. Now the covering, I got some auto paint for that, and the covering wasn't great, but it was okay in the end after about 3-4 coats. So I then drilled a hole for the switch, which is going to turn the dome on and off. There was a bit of drip on the side, so I actually put the switch there to try and hide it as much as I possibly could. So once that was done, I went into Illustrator and drew out all of the artwork for the labels. Illustrator, my application of choice, and then took that to my Cricut maker and cut out all of the vinyl stickers that were going to then I was going to then put on the side of the display, and then spray the artwork on the side. So this is me sticking the vinyl on. Very tricky job to get exactly the right place. And then mixed up the paint to a nice milky consistency. If you use an airbrush, you know the kind of consistency you need. And went over and gave it a good 3-4 coatings, light coatings, so try not to get any drips. So gave it a good few coatings, nice red on the side. And then also, once I'd done that, I did actually give it a quick clear coat over the top, so it's a bit shinier. Once I'd done that, peeled off all of the vinyl, carefully not to pull any paint off, took off all the little details, and yeah, really happy with the result of that. Really happy. So we've created the Naboo Starfighter port. Got a really cool little switch, which we're going to put in to turn the thing on and off. But first we need to get R2's dome sorted and get all the lighting fitted, and then we'll get that put into here. So let's do that now. Okay buddy, so let's get your dome off. Sorry, hopefully this won't hurt. Oh, sorry. Let's turn it upside down, and nice soft padding for you to sit on. Yeah. So, as you can see inside of here, there are lots of different 3D printed panels that go into making the dome. And all the different pie pieces are all 3D printed, and I've currently hot glued everything in because I might decide to have them moving, and I might have different parts I might have the lightsaber shooting out, so I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. So currently everything's kind of temporarily hot glued in, and all the holo projectors are in, but there's no lighting going to be in the holo projectors. They're just free to move as we are. So inside it's all going to have the lighting all fitted. I've got some cable clips here that I'm going to put in to hold all the wiring in place, and there are screw holes all ready to accept M3 screws. They're going to hold all the lighting and circuit boards in place. And this is the lighting kit that I have. This is TC's lighting kit, and I got this from, I can't remember, Ben, I do apologise, your website, but I will give you the links below to get these. All of these LEDs were individually soldered in. It comes as a kit. You get the circuit boards, all the LEDs, all the instructions to create it. And Ben, who I got this from, I did absolutely mess up first time, and Ben was a great help, helping me to send out new PCBs, new circuit boards for me to redo, and finally got it right. So this is going to go in fully working, so all the lights are going to flash, R2 is going to come to life, and it's going to look awesome. So let's get this installed first. Right, so I know where all the different elements are going to go. I just need to get them screwed in. Once they're screwed in, I will then attach the wires with the wire clips, and also find somewhere to attach the battery so it doesn't move. It's going to be temporary. It's not going to be how it's going to be once R2 is fully functioning. I'm going to have a different setup. This is obviously temporary for the competition. I just want something that works. Okay, so let's get to installing that. So I'm using 12mm M3 screws here to fit the logic panel. It is a bit fiddly, but it does go in eventually. And I must say, I can't talk more fondly of Michael's files. The actual, this whole thing is created, is so well put together, and the community, the Facebook community, is all so helpful. Everybody's obviously been through it. If you've got any questions, there are plenty of people there to help you out. So if you are interested in building your own Astromech, I highly recommend joining the Michael Badley's 3D printed community and building your own R2 or whichever Astromech you want to build. Right, so that's that one in. Now I'm going to fit rear PSI. Now also, so the PSIs on this, again, really cool the way it's been created. The housing for the PSI is 3D printed. I printed it in translucent resin, and so quite simply, the PSI fits in the housing. I just need to disconnect it. Put the wiring through and reconnect it. All goes together really well. So that fits in there, that sits in there, and then simply screw the housing on. This goes together so well, it really does. Right. Get that fitted. That's in there, then I can reconnect that part to the motherboard of the large logic display. That connects to that. Gosh, my eyes are bad. Right, so now that's on that. Now I need to connect the two front logic panels. Again, they're attached with M3 screws. Let's go ahead and do that. Really straightforward. Click the way. Right, connect one. It's a bit fiddly. Bit fiddly. It's really fiddly. It's really fiddly. Attached to there. One. I don't know where you are in the world, but currently July in the UK, especially in the south where we are, is so hot. It's just balmy. We've had the hottest June on record and it's still really hot, but we've also been having some pretty big storms and it's just so muggy at the moment. It's so hot. Hence I'm sweating a bit. Right, that's one in. Let's get the next one in. Right, so that's the front logic lights fitted. All done. Now I need to get the front PSI fitted. And we should be good to see if this works. See if the lights are working. So let's get the front PSI on. Right, need to take that out of there, through there, keep all the wires in place, put it back in exactly the same place. Again, if my eyes can get it right. And then screw. Amazing, you can 3D print a screwed part and it fits like a glove. There we go, look at that, that is awesome. Right, should we see if it works? Let's connect up the battery and see if it works. Right, this setup runs off a 9-volt battery. And I have a 9-volt battery connector here. Let's see if she works. Oh, we have lights! R2 is alive! Yes! Oh, that's awesome. Hey R2, you're right, sorry you're upside down. We'll get that fixed. Right, so next thing I've just got to work out is how I'm going to attach the battery. Because what I'm actually going to do, the turning mechanism is going to be run from a battery. That's it's a worm drive I've got set up that's going to turn the R2 unit, and that's going to be powered from a switch on the side of the unit. But the R2 dome is going to be powered from this battery, which is going to be inside, so I'm going to have to take the dome off, attach the battery, get it working, put the dome on, and then I can turn on the motor. Obviously I haven't got I can't power the actual display cabinet and the dome from the same unit because I don't have a slip ring. If you don't know what a slip ring is, it means you can power the dome and the dome can turn as much as it wants without all the wires getting twisted. I don't have one of those, so if I actually had the power source in the base and powered the dome, as the dome turned, obviously all the wires would just twist and eventually pull themselves apart. So this is going to be powered from this battery, which is going to sit up here somewhere. I haven't decided where. I might well have to extend these wires. And then that's going to turn on by just connecting the battery, and then the base is going to be a separate power source. Okay, so I've decided how I'm going to just house the battery here. Really simple, because it doesn't need to be anything clever. I am going to just, there's a ridge here that the battery can sit on top of. Obviously this is going to be the other way around. There's a ridge here that the battery is going to sit on top of. So I'm going to glue this piece of plastic here, which acts as a wall to stop the battery falling off this ridge. So I'm just going to simply super glue that in. Really simple. A bit of super glue. I would use a bit of kicker, but I don't want it to go on the circuit board, so I'm just going to hold that in there and until it sticks. So I might just get a bit of kick on there. Yeah, that's stuck. Okay, that's just, and then the battery will just literally sit behind there, and that should be happy while it's moving. Right, so that's all R2's lighting sorted. He is alive, aren't you, R2? Yeah. So we're going to turn him back, put him on top of his body for now, and we'll turn our attention to the Naboo Starfighter. So R2's back where he belongs. You okay, R2? Good. I've always wanted to say that. R2's back where he belongs, and so we want to get the Naboo housing ready to accept his dome so he can then turn around. Okay, so when R2's dome is on top of the body on Michael Baddeley's design, on top of the body there's the ring, which on top of this, which sits on top of all of the body print, and that's bolted with bolts that go all the way through the body to hold it nice and steady to the top. And then on top of that sits the Lazy Susan. So first things first, we've got to get this attached to the body. Now I've already pre-drilled some holes here. So I measured to make sure this was perfectly central, and then once this is in, we'll then bolt the Lazy Susan and the gearing onto that, and then we can fit the motor. Okay, so we've got the ring in place. So we're just going to screw that in with some screws, some flathead screws. Keep it in place. Now, like I say, I really cannot, that's the wrong screwdriver, bear with me. I cannot sing Michael's praises enough. It really is an amazing thing he's created here, and there are so many people, if you're not familiar, who are part of the community. Now there are NASA scientists who are part of his community who are using his designs to build their own droid, their own Astromech droid. And everything's so well explained. It's all really straightforward. The print files are designed so you don't need any supports. And like I say, there are so many people who are there to help you if you get stuck. I mean, electronics for me, the actual practical stuff, I don't have so much problem with, but the electronics for me, it just goes straight over my head. That's not my strong point at all. But there are so many people who are there to help. Right, so that's the ring all fitted there. That's good. And so here we have the Lazy Susan where I've pre-attached the gearing, and then that's going to fit on there. Now there is a bit of a ridge here. The gearing comes a bit lower than Lazy Susan, so we need to raise it slightly. So I'm just going to use some larger bolts which are going to use as separators. So I'm going to fit those where we have the bolts coming through, just to raise it up so then the Lazy Susan can move freely without catching on the bottom ring. Bum, 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 bum. So hopefully they will all just then, I've got the bolts already in the holes, so I just need to get those into through the holes and in. Take a bit of jigging. Yeah, there we go. Slides around perfectly. Right, so now I need to fit in the nuts to the bolts, tighten it all up, and we'll be good to go. Right, we are done. Okay, so that's that mechanism all attached. Right, so as you can see, the Lazy Susan moves freely. The dome sits on and is attached to these bolts here, sits on top of this, and holes in the underside of the dome which sit over these bolts. So when this turns, it moves the dome. So how do we move this? Well, I've come up with this idea. So I've got a worm drive here. So I've got a motor attached to a worm drive which turns this small gear here. Now the motor I've gone for, this turns at 6 RPM. Okay, which actually will turn this obviously a lot slower, which is fine. I just want it just a really slow motion. The other one up from this was 20 RPM, which is a bit too fast for what I wanted. So this then sits. Now I come up with a really quite a straightforward way to attach this to in here. I've got a block of wood and some ties, and I've attached. So I've drilled some holes in the block of wood here, and then I can slip the ties through and simply attach. Because this is just a temporary setup. I just want to detach it quite easily. And then this is just I'm just going to stick it with some super glue to begin with, and then probably drill through. This will sit on here, and then that'll turn, and it'll turn the dome. Really straightforward. So next, what I want to do is actually attach this up to a battery and get some power. I've got a switch that's going to go on the outside to turn it on and off. Really straightforward. So let's get that done. Okay, so I've got my basic wiring set up. Really simple. I've got the motor here, power source here, motor's connected to the power source, and the live goes to the switch. From the switch, the live goes back to the power source. Standard circuit. So I've got everything I need. I've got my solder, or solder as you say in America. Let's get it all working. Right. Good. Let's get you attached to the long black. Dun, 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 dun. I must admit, it's not something I'm very good at, but I do find it very satisfying soldering. I certainly love doing the shrink wrap afterwards to seal it all up, seal my really diabolical soldering on it. Right, so it's all connected up. Let's see if it works. Yay! ET! It's working! Awesome. Right, now let's see if this is powerful enough to power the dome. Okay, so the wiring's all done. I've sealed all of the joins with the shrink wrap, and now we're going to install the motor. So we've got the power pack, which has 8 1.5 volt AA batteries, so it's a 12 volt supply. That's going to go there like that. Now the switch, the on off switch, I thought it'd be really cool to have one of those red safety switches, kind of make it look really cool. I thought it would go with the whole colour scheme. So I have that to go in here, and of course I've used Aurebesh font that says on off in Aurebesh. Get that through there. And fit the button. Perfect. On, off, on, off. Right. So that's everything fitted. Let's just check the motor's still working. Yay. So now we're going to super glue the motor into the right place. Now I will go in and add some screws, but just for now, to see if it's working and get it working, we're just going to super glue it into place. First we will super glue. I'm going to add some kicker to the base, like that, and then super glue the bottom of the block like so. Have plenty, and then make sure the motor's in the right place and stick it down. Right, now fingers crossed I've got that in the right place. That's stuck well and truly. Right, let's see if she works. Yes! Yes, we have movement! That's a really nice speed actually. Really nice and slow, not too loud. The motor's quite noisy, which you're probably going to hear, but I imagine during the noise of the show in the competition tent you won't actually notice that too much. Hey, it's working. Let's get the dome on. Right, that's the dome on. It looks really good actually. I'm so pleased with it. It just looks like R2's Saturn the fighter. So, moment of truth. Let's see if the motor works and he turns. Yes, it's working. It's a bit jerky, feels, but it's doing what I want it to do. Oh wow, that's awesome. Gosh, you need a bit of a dust. You right there, R2? Good. Good, he's good. Right, so that is my kind of an odd R2 build for the village show competition. And we're going to enter, aren't we, R2? Yes, we are. And I'll let you know in a minute how we did. So the day of the show has come and gone, and the big question obviously is, how did we do? Well, did we win? R2, did we win? No, we didn't win the competition. But why didn't we win? The show was cancelled. Can you believe it? I know I said earlier in the video we've been having some pretty harsh weather, and true to form, on the day of the show there was a huge storm which forced the organiser of the show to cancel it. So unfortunately, after all that hard work, we didn't get to showcase R2 in this fantastic display at the show, which is a real shame. I put a lot of work into it. R2, bless him, was so looking forward to it, weren't you, R2? Yeah, but who knows? Hopefully we'll get to maybe enter him in next year, and maybe there might be a more complete R2 to enter. But it has been a fun build. I really have enjoyed it, and if you've enjoyed it too, please do subscribe and hit that like button. And if you're interested in building your own Astromech, I will leave lots of links down below, all the links that I mentioned, so there's plenty of resources out there for you. And yeah, if you have enjoyed it, please do come back. There's lots of builds coming, but until the next time, happy making.